My friends, suffering is not the enemy. It is the teacher we never asked for, but the one we always need. Life will not always be soft. There will be moments that break your heart, moments that shake your confidence, moments that make you question your worth. But Stoicism teaches us something powerful: pain can destroy you, or pain can rebuild you. The choice is yours. Suffering becomes strength when you face it with courage. This idea sounds simple, but living it requires a deep shift inside the mind. Most people fear pain. They run from it, hide from it, and try to escape it in every possible way. But the Stoics believe that pain is not something to escape. Pain is something to understand. Pain is something to use. Pain is something that shapes the person you are becoming. When suffering arrives in your life, it comes with a message, even if the message feels harsh. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" the Stoic mind asks, "How can this make me stronger?" The moment you change this question, the suffering loses its power to crush you. When you face pain with courage, you stop being a victim of life. You stop being controlled by fear, by doubt, by helplessness. Courage does not mean you feel no fear. Courage means you walk through the fear, not around it. Courage means you stand firm even when the ground beneath you shakes. When suffering enters your life, it tests the strength of your character. It shows you who you truly are when everything around you becomes difficult. Anyone can be calm when life is easy. Anyone can smile when the road is smooth. True strength appears only when life becomes heavy. Suffering forces you to look inward. It forces you to see your weaknesses, your habits, your thoughts that hold you back. Instead of breaking you, this awareness becomes the beginning of transformation. When you face suffering with courage, something inside you begins to shift. Your mind grows, your patience deepens, your understanding of life becomes clearer. You start to realize that pain is not an enemy, it is a mirror. It reflects the parts of you that need growth, discipline, and wisdom. Courage does not remove suffering from your life, but it changes what suffering means. With courage, a loss becomes a lesson. A failure becomes a turning point. A heartbreak becomes a teacher. A difficult situation becomes a training ground for the mind. The Stoics believe that obstacles are not in the way, they are the way. Everything you face strengthens something inside you. Every uncomfortable moment sharpens your spirit. Every painful experience polishes your character. You become stronger not because life gets easier, but because you become better at facing it. When suffering arrives, most people react with panic. They feel overwhelmed because the mind is not prepared. But courage prepares the mind. Courage tells you that you have the strength to endure more than you think. Courage tells you that you can bend without breaking. Courage tells you that inside every moment of suffering, there is a hidden opportunity to rise. When you stand in front of pain with courage, you are no longer powerless. You are in control of your response, your thoughts, your decisions. That control is the foundation of inner strength. Suffering also reveals resilience. You begin to discover that the human spirit is far stronger than the human body. The mind, when trained, can carry more weight than any physical muscle. You start to trust your inner strength. You start to trust that even if life pushes you down, you have the power to stand up again. The Stoics taught that nothing outside you can truly harm you, unless you allow it to harm your mind. Once you protect your mind with courage, suffering cannot destroy you. It can only shape you. Facing suffering with courage means choosing growth over comfort. It means stepping into the fire knowing that the fire will refine you. It means understanding that strength is not built in moments of ease, but in moments of hardship. Every great person in history became great not because life was soft, but because they faced suffering with the determination to rise above it. This is the path of the Stoic mind. This is the path of true inner strength. Accept pain instead of resisting it. This simple idea carries a deep truth about human suffering. Most of the pain we feel does not come from the situation itself. It comes from our resistance to the situation. When we fight reality, when we refuse to accept what has already happened, the mind becomes heavier, tighter, and more troubled. The Stoics understood that life will always bring moments that hurt, but the suffering becomes much greater when we cling to the idea that the moment should not be happening. Acceptance does not mean you like the pain. Acceptance means you stop adding extra suffering on top of it. When you resist pain, your mind begins to spiral. You overthink, you imagine the worst, you replay events again and again, trying to change them in your mind even though they are already done. This resistance drains your energy. It makes you tired without moving forward. Acceptance breaks this cycle. When you accept the pain, you free your mind from the unnecessary layers of emotional struggle. You allow yourself to breathe again. You allow yourself to see the situation clearly, without the fog of denial and fear. Pain becomes heavier when you say, "This should not be happening." But acceptance says, "It is happening, and I will face it." That shift alone gives the mind strength. Acceptance does not remove the pain, but it removes the panic. It removes the confusion. It removes the inner chaos that comes from fighting what is already real. When you accept the moment as it is, your mind becomes calmer, and a calm mind can handle anything. The Stoic philosophers taught that we should align our minds with reality, not with our expectations. Life rarely follows our plans. People change, situations break, events arrive without warning. When you accept this truth, you stop feeling betrayed by life. You stop expecting life to be easy. You begin to understand that challenges are part of being human. Pain is part of growth. Hardship is part of transformation. When you accept this, the fear of pain loses its power. Acceptance also strengthens your emotional resilience. Instead of wasting energy wishing things were different, you use your energy to respond wisely. You stop blaming life, blaming others, or blaming yourself for what you cannot change. You start directing your focus toward what you can improve, what you can influence, and what you can learn from the moment. Acceptance turns your attention from the past to the present, from regret to action, from helplessness to strength. When you accept pain, you create inner space. That space allows you to observe your emotions instead of drowning in them. You begin to notice that emotions rise and fall like waves. They do not last forever. They pass through you if you do not hold on to them. Resistance traps the emotion. Acceptance allows it to move. When the emotion moves, the mind becomes lighter. Acceptance also gives you clarity. When you stop resisting, you can finally see what the situation demands. You can think more clearly. You can respond more calmly. A mind at war with reality cannot make good decisions. A mind that accepts reality can move forward with wisdom. Acceptance opens the door to new solutions, new perspectives, and new strength. Pain often feels bigger than it is because our mind pushes against it. When you stop pushing, the pain becomes something you can manage. It becomes something you can walk through. It becomes something that loses its power to control you. Acceptance turns pain from a monster into a teacher. It turns suffering into a guide. It turns difficulty into a path for growth. When you accept pain instead of resisting it, you learn to trust yourself. You learn that you can handle difficult moments without breaking. You learn that the mind has a natural ability to heal, to adapt, and to grow. Acceptance is not weakness. Acceptance is strength in its purest form. It is the courage to let reality be what it is and the wisdom to face it without fear. Focus only on what you can control during hard times. This principle sits at the heart of Stoic philosophy, and it carries a wisdom that can change the direction of a person's life. When difficulty arrives, most people give their attention to everything that causes fear, stress, or uncertainty. They think about the actions of others, the unpredictable future, the mistakes of the past, and the outcomes they cannot guarantee. This mental habit creates more suffering than the situation itself. The Stoics believe that peace begins when you separate what is in your control from what is not. Once you understand this difference, your mind becomes quieter, clearer, and stronger. In every difficult moment, there are two forces at work: what you can influence and what you cannot. The problem is that the human mind naturally focuses on the uncontrollable. It worries about outcomes, reactions, judgments, and possibilities. But worry does not change anything. It only drains your energy. When you shift your focus to what you can control, your thoughts, your actions, your effort, your response, you reclaim the power that stress tries to steal from you. You stop feeling like life is happening against you, and you start feeling like you have a direction you can walk toward. Hard times often bring a sense of chaos. Plans fall apart. People disappoint you. Unexpected events force you into situations you did not choose. In these moments, the mind wants to control everything because it fears losing stability. But trying to control the uncontrollable is like trying to stop a storm with your hands. It only increases frustration. True strength is not controlling everything around you. It is controlling your inner world. When your inner world is steady, the outside world loses its ability to throw you into panic. Focusing on what you can control means taking responsibility for your attitude. You may not control the situation, but you control how you see it. You may not control other people's actions, but you control your behavior. You may not control the future, but you control the steps you take today. This mindset creates a sense of direction, even when the world feels uncertain. It allows you to act with purpose instead of reacting with fear. It turns a difficult moment into a moment of discipline and clarity. In hard times, Your thoughts are the first thing you must guide. The mind naturally amplifies fear, imagining worst-case scenarios. But you can control which thoughts you give attention to. You can choose to challenge negativity. You can choose to replace worry with focus. You can choose to keep yourself grounded in the present instead of getting trapped in the future. This small shift changes everything, because the mind shapes the emotional experience more than the situation itself. Next, you control your actions. Even when life feels overwhelming, you can always take a step forward. It might be a small step, but it is still movement. Taking action gives the mind direction. It prevents you from drowning in your thoughts. It keeps your energy flowing towards something productive instead of something destructive. One step can lead to another, and slowly, a path begins to appear through the difficulty. You also control the effort you put in. You may not control the result, but you control the consistency of your work. This mindset reduces stress because you no longer attach your peace to outcomes. You attach your peace to your discipline. Outcomes may vary, but discipline is always in your hands. When you focus on the process instead of the result, your mind becomes calmer, because you are no longer fighting forces you cannot command. Finally, you control your response to life's challenges. You can respond with frustration or with calmness, with fear or with resilience, with doubt or with faith in your own strength. Your response defines your experience. Two people can face the same hardship, yet one breaks while the other grows. The difference is not the situation, the difference is the mindset. When you choose your response with awareness and intention, you take back control from the chaos. Focusing on what you can control is not avoidance. It is wisdom. It is the understanding that your energy is precious. Every moment you spend fighting what you cannot change is a moment you lose. But every moment you spend strengthening what you can control builds a foundation inside you that nothing in the outside world can shake. Every struggle carries a lesson, look for it. This idea transforms the way you move through life. Most people go through difficulties hoping to escape them as fast as possible. They focus only on the discomfort, the inconvenience, the pain. But the Stoic mind sees struggle differently. It sees struggle as a teacher disguised in hardship. It sees every challenge as an opportunity to grow, to become wiser, to become more aware of yourself and the world. When you begin to look for the lesson inside your struggle, the suffering begins to change shape. It stops being something that crushes you and becomes something that shapes you. Life does not send lessons wrapped in comfort. Life teaches through disruption. When everything is easy, the mind becomes lazy. It stops questioning, it stops reflecting, it stops improving. Hardship wakes the mind up. It forces you to think deeper. It forces you to ask difficult questions. It forces you to confront things within yourself that you normally avoid. A struggle may reveal your impatience, your insecurities, your fears, your habits, or your attachments. It may show you where you need strength, where you need clarity, where you need discipline. But you can only discover these truths if you choose to look for them. Struggles often feel confusing when you are inside them. The mind becomes emotional. The heart becomes heavy. You may wonder why this is happening or what you did wrong. But if you shift your perspective and ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me? Your entire relationship with the struggle changes. Suddenly, the pain begins to reveal patterns. You notice that some struggles repeat because you haven't learned the lesson the first time. You notice that certain people challenge you because you still need to learn boundaries. You notice that certain failures appear because you need to build discipline, patience, or self-awareness. The moment you look for the lesson, the struggle stops feeling meaningless. Some lessons come with silence. Some lessons come with heartbreak. Some lessons come with losing something you thought you needed. Some lessons come with failure that shakes your confidence. But these lessons carry the seeds of transformation. A struggle that teaches you honesty makes your character stronger. A struggle that teaches you patience makes your mind calmer. A struggle that teaches you resilience makes your spirit unbreakable. The greatest lessons often come wrapped in discomfort, because growth rarely feels gentle. Looking for the lesson also stops you from being bitter. When something difficult happens, it is easy to fall into self-pity or blame. But when you look for the lesson, your mind becomes active instead of passive. You stop feeling like life is against you and start understanding that life is shaping you. You begin to trust that every difficulty has a purpose. This trust does not make the struggle disappear, but it makes the struggle meaningful. And when something becomes meaningful, it becomes easier to carry. The lesson inside every struggle often lies deeper than the surface. A failed relationship might teach you how to value yourself. A financial setback might teach you how to simplify your life. A betrayal might teach you to trust actions more than words. A stressful period might teach you to slow down and set healthier boundaries. The key is awareness. You must pay attention. You must reflect. You must be willing to question yourself without judgment. Looking for the lesson also builds emotional strength. It trains your mind to stay calm during chaos, because you know there is something to learn. You stop reacting impulsively and start observing more thoughtfully. You gain control over your emotions, because you are no longer running from discomfort. You are studying it. You are understanding it. You are letting it teach you what you need to know. Every struggle in life can either pull you down or lift you higher. The difference lies in where you place your attention. If you focus only on the pain, you remain stuck. But if you look for the lesson, you rise. You take the experience and turn it into wisdom. You take the difficulty and turn it into growth. You take the struggle and turn it into a step toward becoming a stronger, calmer, and wiser version of yourself. Hardship reveals your true character. This truth becomes clear in moments when life no longer follows your plans, when comfort disappears, and when the weight of reality presses down on you. During easy times, it is simple to appear calm, patient, disciplined, and wise. When everything flows smoothly, even the weakest person can seem strong. But when hardship arrives, when you are pushed beyond your comfort, your real nature begins to surface. The Stoics believed that adversity does not create character, it reveals it. It shows you who you truly are beneath your habits, beneath your excuses, beneath the image you present to the world. Hardship strips away the masks people wear. It removes the layers of comfort that hide insecurity, impatience, anger, or fear. When everything is going well, you do not notice these hidden parts of yourself, because life does not challenge them. But the moment pressure appears, these qualities rise to the surface. You see how you react when things fall apart. You see how you speak when you are frustrated. You see how you treat others when you are stressed. You see how easily you give up, or how strongly you push forward. Hardship becomes a mirror, showing you a version of yourself that comfort never reveals. This revelation is uncomfortable but valuable. Many people avoid facing their true character because it exposes their weaknesses, their fears, and their lack of discipline. But the Stoic approach is different. Instead of running from this truth, the Stoic mind embraces it. When hardship reveals a flaw, it is not a cause for shame. It is an opportunity for improvement. When you see yourself reacting with anger or impatience, it becomes a signal that your inner world needs strengthening. When you see yourself feeling overwhelmed, it becomes a sign that you must build resilience. Hardship reveals the areas where growth is necessary. In difficult times, you also discover your strengths. You learn that you can endure more than you expected. You learn that you have courage that only appears when tested. You learn that your mind is capable of staying calm, even when everything around you is chaotic. Strength is not something you truly understand until life forces you to use it. Hardship helps you discover this hidden strength. It shows you that you are not as fragile as you once believed. How you behave during adversity also shows your values. When you are comfortable, it is easy to say you care about patience, kindness, or discipline. But hardship tests whether those values are truly part of who you are or merely ideas you like. Do you remain patient when stressed? Do you stay kind when hurt? Do you act with integrity when things become difficult? Hardship answers these questions honestly. It exposes the difference between who you think you are and who you really are in action. Hardship also reveals your level of emotional control. When life challenges you, your emotions rise quickly. Fear, frustration, sadness, and anger become louder. If your mind is not steady, these emotions control you. But if you have trained yourself to respond instead of react, your calmness shows itself. Your discipline becomes visible. Your inner strength becomes undeniable. Hardship is the stage where emotional maturity is tested, and you learn whether you guide your emotions or your emotions guide you. Your relationships also show their true nature during hard times. Some people stay only when life is easy. Some disappear the moment you face difficulty. Hardship reveals who is genuinely loyal, who truly cares, and who values you beyond your comfort and convenience. But it also reveals how you treat others when you are under pressure. Do you push people away? Do you blame them? Do you lean on them with gratitude, or do you take your frustration out on them? Hardship uncovers both sides of your relational character. Most importantly, hardship reveals your mindset. If you carry a victim mentality, adversity will expose it. If you carry resilience, adversity will highlight it. Hardship shows whether you approach life with helplessness or with responsibility, whether you collapse or rise. These moments clarify your inner foundation. You see clearly what must be strengthened, what must be healed, and what must be transformed. Hardship is not meant to punish you. It is meant to show you the truth, and with truth comes the power to rebuild yourself stronger than before. Use suffering as fuel for self-improvement. This idea changes the way you move through pain and transforms difficult moments into opportunities for growth. Most people try to escape suffering, avoid it, or hide from it. They see suffering as a sign that something has gone wrong, as a punishment, or as an obstacle blocking their path. But the Stoics saw suffering differently. They believed that suffering is raw energy. If you direct that energy wisely, it becomes fuel, fuel for discipline, fuel for clarity, fuel for strength, and fuel for becoming a better version of yourself. The pain you feel can either weaken you or sharpen you depending on how you use it. Suffering has a way of focusing the mind. When life is comfortable, your attention becomes scattered. You get distracted easily. You delay important things. You become careless with your time and your habits. But when suffering appears, it forces you to pay attention. It pulls you into the present moment. It reminds you of what truly matters. This awareness is powerful because it gives you the opportunity to make changes you would normally ignore. Instead of letting suffering break you, you can let it wake you up. Using suffering as fuel means asking new questions. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you ask, "How can I grow from this?" Instead of asking, "How do I escape this pain?" you ask, "What strength can I develop through this?" These questions shift your mindset from helplessness to empowerment. They turn suffering from something that controls you into something that teaches you. They make you an active participant in your own transformation, rather than a passive victim of your circumstances. Pain pushes you to evolve. When something hurts, it usually means something in your life needs to change. It might be a habit, a mindset, a relationship, or a belief. Suffering highlights the areas that need improvement. If you are feeling overwhelmed, it might be a sign to build better structure and discipline. If you feel lost, it might be a call to find clarity and direction. If you feel stuck, it might be the universe urging you to take a risk or let go of something that has held you back. Suffering gives you signals. Using it as fuel means paying attention to those signals and letting them guide your growth. Some of the greatest achievements in life are born from suffering. People who rise from failure become more resilient. People who heal from heartbreak discover deeper wisdom. People who overcome fear learn courage. Pain changes you, and the choice is always yours whether that change becomes a transformation or a downfall. When you choose to use suffering as fuel, you turn emotional fire into inner power. You take the heaviness of the moment and convert it into strength that stays with you for the rest of your life. Suffering also builds discipline. When you are in pain, you learn the value of routine, consistency, and self-control. You learn that running from discomfort only increases it, while facing discomfort builds resilience. You begin to understand that discipline is not punishment, it is a tool that helps you stay steady when life becomes unstable. Using suffering as fuel means building habits that protect your mind, habits like reflection, journaling, meditation, exercise, or purposeful work. These habits turn chaos into direction. Suffering also reveals how strong your mind truly is. Every time you endure something difficult, you grow a little stronger. You begin to realize that the thresholds you once feared can be crossed. The pain you thought would break you becomes something you survived. These experiences become sources of confidence. They remind you that you are capable of enduring hard things. This belief is powerful because it carries you through every future challenge. When you use suffering as fuel, you stop seeing yourself as powerless. You begin to see the potential hidden inside every struggle. You understand that pain is not the enemy, stagnation is. Pain forces movement. Pain forces growth. Pain forces change. It pushes you out of the places where you were stuck and into the spaces where you can evolve. The energy of suffering is intense, but it is also transformative. If you direct that energy inward, with awareness, discipline, and courage, you can rebuild yourself into someone wiser, stronger, and more grounded than before. Pain is temporary, but growth is permanent. This simple truth carries a powerful message about how to face life's hardest moments. When pain hits, it feels overwhelming. It feels like it will last forever. Your mind believes the discomfort will stay with you, that the sadness or stress will define your future, that the heaviness in your chest will never lift. But pain is a visitor. It comes, it disrupts, and then it leaves. What stays behind is the transformation it creates inside you. The growth you gain from surviving pain becomes a permanent part of your character, your wisdom, and your strength. In the moment of suffering, your mind exaggerates the duration of the pain. It tricks you into thinking the discomfort is endless. But if you look back on your life, you will notice that every painful moment eventually passed. Every heartbreak healed, every failure lost its sting, every disappointment became a memory. What felt unbearable at the time eventually softened. But the lessons and the strength you gained from those moments stayed with you. They shaped the way you think, react, and move through the world. This pattern repeats every time pain arrives. Pain fades, growth remains. Understanding that pain is temporary creates space in your mind. It gives you the strength to endure the present without being crushed by it. You stop resisting the discomfort and begin to observe it. You stop fearing the intensity and begin to allow it to flow through you. When you acknowledge that the pain will not last forever, it loses the power to control your mind. You realize that you are not trapped. You are simply moving through a difficult chapter that will eventually turn into wisdom. Growth, on the other hand, is something that stays with you permanently. Every challenge you face adds another layer of strength. Every emotional wound you heal teaches you something about yourself. Every setback forces you to build resilience and determination. These qualities do not fade like pain. They accumulate, quietly shaping you into someone more grounded and capable. This is why some of the strongest people you meet are those who have faced the hardest experiences. Their growth became permanent because they did not allow temporary pain to stop their journey. The Stoic mindset teaches you to endure discomfort with patience and presence, not because suffering is desirable, but because it is meaningful. Temporary pain often becomes the doorway to deep inner change. You learn more about yourself during challenges than during comfort. You discover your limits, your fears, your strengths, and the habits that need to be transformed. Pain exposes what needs attention, and growth happens when you respond to that awareness. Sometimes, pain feels like it is tearing you apart, but what it is really doing is breaking the old version of you that no longer serves your future. The confusion you feel is part of shedding old beliefs. The sadness you feel is part of releasing old attachments. The uncertainty you feel is part of entering a new phase of life. These transitions are uncomfortable, but they are also necessary. You cannot grow without leaving something behind, and that process often involves temporary suffering. When you accept that growth is permanent, you begin to approach pain differently. Instead of fighting it, you allow it to teach you. Instead of rushing to escape it, you give yourself time to understand it. Instead of seeing it as a punishment, you see it as a catalyst. This does not make the pain pleasant, but it makes it purposeful. You can carry pain for a moment if it means carrying strength for the rest of your life. Pain also teaches humility. It reminds you that life cannot be controlled completely. It reminds you that you are human, vulnerable, and constantly evolving. This humility is not weakness, it is clarity. It keeps you grounded. It keeps you aware of what truly matters. It protects you from arrogance and helps you stay connected to others who are suffering. The empathy you gain through your own pain becomes another form of permanent growth. When you look back years later, the pain itself often becomes blurry, but the growth becomes clear. You see how your perspective changed, how your habits improved, how your understanding deepened, and how your heart became stronger. This is the gift hidden inside suffering. Pain passes, growth stays, and each time you endure something difficult, you become someone wiser and more resilient than before. Do not complain, respond with discipline. This principle is at the heart of Stoic philosophy and has the power to transform the way you handle suffering. Most people naturally complain when life becomes difficult. They grumble about circumstances, blame others, or feel unfairly treated. Complaining might give temporary relief, a brief sense that someone else understands your struggle, but it does not solve problems. It does not move you forward. Complaining strengthens weakness, while discipline strengthens the mind and builds resilience. The Stoic approach is different. When life tests you, the focus is not on whining about what has happened, but on responding wisely and intentionally. Complaining is a form of resistance. When you complain, you are telling your mind that it is powerless, that the situation is unfair, and that you cannot handle what has come your way. It drains your energy because it keeps your attention on the negative instead of the solution. Discipline, on the other hand, directs energy toward action. Discipline says, I may not control what is happening, but I control my response. When you respond with discipline instead of complaint, you reclaim control over your mind and your actions. You move from being a victim to being an active participant in your own life. Life is filled with challenges that are outside your control. People may disappoint you. Circumstances may change suddenly. Plans may fail. Complaining will not fix these realities, it will only prolong suffering. Discipline, however, allows you to navigate these obstacles. When you respond with discipline, you maintain focus on what you can do. You take small steps, make careful decisions, and act with clarity. Discipline transforms hardship into a teacher and struggle into an opportunity for growth. Responding with discipline also builds character. Every time you face discomfort without complaining, you strengthen the part of yourself that remains calm, patient, and rational under pressure. You prove to yourself that external events do not dictate your inner state. Each difficult moment becomes a test of your self-control, and passing that test makes your mind sharper. Discipline allows you to rise above emotional impulses and maintain composure when others may panic, react, or criticize. Over time, this ability becomes a natural habit, and the mind becomes resilient. Complaint often comes from attachment to expectations. You expect life to be easy, people to act fairly, and circumstances to align with your desires. When reality differs, you feel frustration. Discipline shifts your mindset. Discipline accepts that life does not owe you comfort or convenience. Discipline teaches you to focus on adapting, improving, and taking responsibility for your own growth. It transforms the unfairness of life into a practice ground for wisdom and resilience. When you respond with discipline instead of complaint, your perception of problems changes. Problems become challenges to overcome, not insults to endure. Obstacles become lessons to learn, not punishments to reason. Discipline creates a mental environment where suffering is productive instead of destructive. You start to see that difficulties are shaping you into someone stronger, more capable, and more aware. Complaint blinds you to these lessons. Discipline opens your eyes to them. Discipline also influences your relationships. People who complain constantly often push others away. They create tension, negativity, and distraction. But those who respond with discipline inspire respect and trust. Others see the ability to stay composed, to act thoughtfully, and to handle adversity without whining. Discipline becomes contagious. It elevates the environment around you and encourages others to face their own struggles with clarity and strength. Finally, responding with discipline trains the mind to value effort over outcome. Life will always be unpredictable, and results may vary. Complaint focuses on what went wrong, while discipline focuses on what you are doing to improve yourself. The Stoics teach that inner growth matters more than external events. Discipline ensures that you are constantly building yourself, regardless of success or failure, praise or criticism, gain or loss. Each response rooted in discipline creates momentum for lasting resilience and wisdom. By choosing discipline over complaint, you take control of your life, your emotions, and your growth. You convert suffering into opportunity. You transform frustration into purpose. You build a mind that is steady, calm, and strong, capable of navigating whatever challenges life places in your path. Turn emotional wounds into wisdom. This principle is at the heart of Stoic philosophy and offers a profound way to deal with pain, disappointment, and heartbreak. Every emotional wound carries a lesson, but most people respond to these wounds with anger, regret, or self-pity. They dwell on the hurt, replay the events, and allow the pain to fester. The Stoics believe that emotional wounds are not meant to break you permanently, they are meant to teach you, shape you, and guide you toward deeper understanding. When you approach your wounds with awareness, patience, and reflection, they become the foundation of wisdom. Emotional wounds often arise from situations we cannot control: betrayals, failures, loss, or misunderstandings. These moments hurt because they confront our expectations, challenge our values, or reveal our vulnerabilities. If we respond impulsively or allow resentment to take hold, the wounds deepen and our growth slows. But if we take a step back, observe our feelings, and ask what the experience is trying to teach us, the wounds begin to transform. The pain itself does not disappear immediately, but it becomes meaningful. It becomes a guide to self-awareness and personal growth. Every emotional wound contains insight about ourselves and our relationships. It may reveal where our boundaries were too weak, where our expectations were unrealistic, or where our reactions were disproportionate. It may show patterns we have repeated, habits that harm us, or areas where we need greater patience or understanding. Recognizing these truths is the first step in converting a wound into wisdom. Pain becomes a teacher when we choose to learn from it, instead of resisting it or blaming others. Reflection allows us to see the deeper lesson hidden within the hurt. The Stoics taught that the mind can transform suffering into strength through deliberate attention. When an emotional wound occurs, instead of asking, "Why did this happen?" the wiser question is, "What can I learn from this?" By focusing on the lesson, you shift from victimhood to agency. You acknowledge the reality of the pain, but refuse to let it dominate your life. This mindset turns setbacks into training for the mind and heart. Each wound becomes a tool to develop resilience, patience, empathy, and discernment. Turning wounds into wisdom also requires emotional regulation. Pain naturally triggers strong reactions: anger, sadness, frustration, or fear. If you respond impulsively, you may say or do things that worsen the situation or create new wounds. Discipline in your emotional response allows the lesson to emerge clearly. By observing the emotions without being swept away, you gain perspective. You understand which parts of the pain are temporary, which parts reveal truth about yourself, and which parts are projections or assumptions that can be released. Emotional control is essential for turning suffering into insight. Wounds also teach humility. They remind you that life is unpredictable, that people are imperfect, and that circumstances are often beyond your control. They show that you are human, capable of mistakes, and in constant need of growth. This humility is not weakness, it is clarity. It helps you see the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. Wisdom comes when you accept these truths and adjust your behavior accordingly. Every wound becomes a guidepost, a pointing toward better decisions, stronger boundaries, and a calmer mind. Empathy is another gift that comes from emotional wounds. Once you have experienced hurt, you begin to understand the suffering of others. You become more compassionate, patient, and forgiving. Your wounds, when reflected upon, teach you how to support others through their pain, creating deeper human connections. Pain, when processed with awareness, spreads wisdom not just to yourself but to those around you. Finally, emotional wounds can clarify priorities. They reveal what truly matters to you, what values you hold, and what actions you must take to align your life with your principles. They highlight what relationships, choices, and behaviors are worth nurturing and which should be released. By extracting these lessons, you convert temporary suffering into permanent understanding, using every wound as a stepping stone toward a wiser, stronger self. Each emotional wound carries the potential for transformation. If ignored or resisted, it can fester and harm. If reflected upon and processed, it becomes wisdom that strengthens the mind, shapes the heart, and guides every future decision. Turning wounds into wisdom is a practice, a mindset, and a way of living that transforms suffering into lasting personal growth. Challenges make your mind sharper and calmer. This principle is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy and reveals a profound truth about human growth. Life will inevitably place obstacles in your path: loss, failure, fear, uncertainty, and unexpected events. Most people respond to these challenges with stress, panic, or avoidance. They feel overwhelmed and let external circumstances dictate their emotional state. The Stoics, however, saw challenges as opportunities. They believed that when you face difficulty with awareness and intention, your mind grows stronger, clearer, and more resilient. Challenges, when approached correctly, do not only test you, they sharpen you. A challenge forces you to focus. When life is smooth, the mind can become scattered. Thoughts wander, distractions increase, and clarity diminishes. Challenges demand attention because they create a problem that must be solved. This focus trains the mind to see clearly, to analyze, to prioritize, and to act decisively. Each difficulty becomes a mental exercise, a way to practice controlling attention instead of letting the mind drift aimlessly. Over time, the repetition of facing challenges develops mental agility, sharpening your ability to think under pressure. Challenges also calm the mind by teaching perspective. In the middle of difficulty, emotions naturally rise: fear, anger, frustration, or anxiety. Most people allow these emotions to control them, magnifying the stress and prolonging suffering. The Stoics taught that calmness comes from observing challenges without being overwhelmed. By stepping back and seeing the situation as it truly is, not as your fear interprets it, the mind learns to stay composed. The repeated experience of facing adversity without panic strengthens emotional regulation, creating a sense of inner peace even amidst external chaos. Every challenge presents a choice: to react impulsively or to respond with wisdom. Reacting is instinctive, it releases energy without direction and often increases difficulty. Responding with wisdom requires reflection, patience, and discipline. By practicing wise responses consistently, you train your mind to approach life deliberately rather than emotionally. Each challenge becomes a lesson in decision-making, teaching you to balance instinct with reason and emotion with logic. This practice gradually makes the mind sharper, able to analyze, adapt, and act with precision. Challenges also highlight your weaknesses, offering a map for improvement. When life pushes you, it reveals areas where your mind is untrained or your habits are weak. These revelations are not setbacks, they are opportunities for growth. By confronting these weaknesses, reflecting on them, and taking corrective action, you transform limitations into strengths. This process requires courage and persistence, but it gradually builds mental fortitude that cannot be shaken by ordinary difficulties. Repeated challenges create resilience. The mind learns that it can endure discomfort, uncertainty, and setbacks without breaking. Each time you overcome a problem, your confidence grows and fear diminishes. You begin to trust your ability to navigate complexity, to adapt to change, and to face uncertainty with composure. This resilience produces calmness, because the mind knows it has survived past hardships and can survive future ones. Calmness does not come from the absence of challenges. It comes from mastering how to meet them. Challenges also foster clarity. They force you to separate what matters from what does not. In the midst of difficulty, trivial concerns fall away, and priorities become evident. You see which actions will create progress, which thoughts are helpful, and which distractions must be ignored. This clarity of thought allows you to act efficiently, conserve energy, and avoid being consumed by stress. A mind sharpened by challenges is precise, focused, and able to navigate complexity with confidence. Facing challenges consistently also strengthens patience. Solutions often require time, effort, and repeated attempts. The mind learns that instant gratification is rare, and that steady perseverance produces results. Patience combined with focus and reflection builds a powerful mental state, one that is alert, capable, and unshaken by temporary discomfort. Finally, challenges cultivate humility and perspective. They remind you that life is unpredictable, that you are human, and that control is limited. Yet they also show that within limits lies tremendous potential. Each challenge you face and overcome adds to your mental toolkit, producing a mind that is not only sharper in thought but calmer in spirit, capable of navigating whatever life brings with clarity, resilience, and wisdom. Stand firm when life tests you. This is where strength is built. Life is unpredictable and no one escapes moments of difficulty, loss, or uncertainty. Many people falter when challenges arise because they have built their sense of security on comfort rather than resilience. The Stoics teach that true strength is revealed not when life is easy, but when it is hard. Every test, every obstacle, every moment that shakes your foundation is an opportunity to discover and cultivate the strength that already exists within you. Standing firm is not merely resisting, it is consciously choosing to face adversity with courage, awareness, and determination. When life tests you, the first challenge is often mental. Fear, doubt, and anxiety naturally rise in response to the unknown. Most people allow these emotions to dictate their actions, retreating from responsibility or making impulsive decisions. To stand firm, you must train your mind to pause, observe, and respond deliberately. You acknowledge fear without letting it control you. You recognize doubt without letting it paralyze you. This mental discipline is the foundation of strength, because it separates reaction from thoughtful action, allowing you to act with clarity even in moments of chaos. Standing firm also requires emotional resilience. Life's tests often stir strong emotions: anger, sadness, frustration, or grief. If you let these emotions dominate, you are pulled off course. The Stoics teach that emotions are natural, but they become dangerous when left unchecked. By facing hardship with emotional awareness, you develop the ability to remain composed and balanced. Over time, this practice strengthens the mind, allowing calmness to persist even when external circumstances are turbulent. Emotional control does not suppress feeling, it channels it in a way that supports wise action and long-term growth. Another aspect of standing firm is accepting reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. Challenges often bring disappointment because life does not match expectations. If you resist reality, you amplify suffering. If you accept it, you free energy to focus on what is possible. Acceptance does not mean passivity, it means understanding the situation clearly and responding effectively. By acknowledging the truth without distortion, you strengthen your ability to navigate difficulties with precision and resilience. Discipline is a crucial companion to standing firm. Life's tests are rarely overcome by chance or luck. They are overcome by consistent effort, focus, and persistence. Each decision you make to act with integrity, each step you take despite fear, each moment you resist distraction or temptation, builds strength. Discipline transforms moments of difficulty into opportunities for growth, turning external pressure into internal fortitude. The more you exercise discipline, the more resilient you become, and the easier it becomes to remain steadfast in future challenges. Standing firm also develops confidence. Each time you confront adversity without giving in, you reinforce the belief in your own capabilities. You begin to trust your judgment, your resilience, and your inner strength. This confidence is not arrogance, It is grounded in experience and reflection. It is a quiet assurance that no matter what comes, you have the tools to face it with wisdom and courage. Life's tests do not feel less intense, but your response becomes more measured and effective, which is the essence of inner strength. Persistence is another dimension of standing firm. Life's challenges are rarely solved instantly. They often require sustained effort, repeated attempts, and patience. By maintaining effort through difficulty, you cultivate endurance, a mental and emotional stamina that becomes a cornerstone of strength. Each step forward, no matter how small, reinforces your ability to persist and creates momentum toward mastery over circumstances. Finally, standing firm teaches humility and self-awareness. You realize your limitations and confront your vulnerabilities, yet you also discover your untapped potential. You learn that strength is not the absence of difficulty, but the capacity to endure and grow through it. Each test in life shapes your character, refines your mind, and reinforces the unshakable core that will carry you through future storms. By choosing to stand firm, you are not only surviving hardship, you are building the strength that defines who you truly are. Take responsibility for your life, no matter the circumstances. This principle lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy, and is essential for rebuilding yourself through suffering. Most people blame external events, other people, or luck when life becomes difficult. They feel helpless and allow circumstances to dictate their emotions and actions. The Stoics taught that while you cannot control everything that happens to you, you can control your responses. Taking responsibility means recognizing that your power lies in your choices, your thoughts, and your actions, even when life seems unfair. It is the first step toward turning suffering into growth and transformation. Responsibility begins with the mind. When something goes wrong, the instinct is often to complain, excuse, or blame. This reaction drains energy and keeps you stuck in helplessness. Taking responsibility means stopping these habits and asking a different question. What can I do to respond wisely?